Piers Morgan, I don't think Piers Morgan is a moron. I know that it says it on the thing, but I think he plays the moron card to get clicks and a lot of people here, this is sort of a part of this. A lot of people have been saying to us, oh no, that's a lie. I just lied to you. Well, I'm sorry. I repent and ask forgiveness. There's been a couple of people talking to us about getting, and not like, not like the right wing, oh, you woke tards, only speak to your own kind, echo chamber, but people actually going, we'd like to see some more debate. We'd like you to get some of the opposing voices on and have a crack. And if there's a reason for doing that, I'm okay in doing that. We've had some fallouts from this in the past, not necessarily with us and that, but with some in the community. But I'm going to show you a clip coming up shortly. This first clip is quite long and I'll probably cut it short so we can chat about it, Chewy. But sometimes when you get the opposing views on, what it does is it creates great theatre and great drama and great clicks, but doesn't achieve very much. Now, I think what Cornel West and Cenk Uygur say in this clip are great, but I can just tell that Piers Morgan is just sitting there in a smug little cushion going, 2 million views, 3 million views, 4 million views. It's like when they talk about what controls the left and the right in politics. It's finances, it's money, it's corporate politics. It's money at the top. And it's a lot the same in media. You hear about, oh, the media is all lefties or the media is all, no, the media is focused on profits, right? And that's what their focus is. And if they find out that their message, let's say it was left-leaning, was going to go bankrupt, then they'll just switch to right-leaning like that. It's about money. It's about corporate dollars. It's about corporate interest. That's what's at the tip of the triangle when it comes to most things. And so I'm going to play some clips for you now. The first part is going to be Cornel West in particular having a crack at old Mr. Morgan about what I learned from this conversation from Cornel West is the importance of how you frame an issue. And one of the things that's happening in some spaces is the way the issue is being framed gives weight to one side. We've been saying this for a long time, how someone will go on a show from the left and they'll go, do you denounce the actions of Hamas? And they always go, yeah, of course. But they never ask the person on the other side, do you denounce the actions of the IDF bombing hospitals? That question never gets asked. So straight away, the framing of the debate or conversation has been set up to be, Hamas, Gaza, Palestinians worse, Israel, fine, just doing things normally. So the way it's framed is really important. And to be honest, maybe this shows my naivety or idiocy. I hadn't really thought about that very much of recent times, but listening to this conversation, and the whole thing's like 45 minutes, and I've listened to the whole thing a couple of times. It's really clear that whilst Piers Morgan might be saying things like, I feel for everyone, he's definitely giving weight to the Palestinian conversation, to the Jewish conversation. So this debate is supposed to be about Jewish students at American universities being treated badly, not being allowed to go to their classes. So the weight of the conversation is about the poor Jewish students that have been held up, because of protests that have been going on, not about the 35,000 dead Palestinians. The weight of the argument has been pulled away with that just with the framing of the conversation. I think I didn't, not saying I learned to listen, but I was reminded of how important in our conversations, in our debates, in our highlighting of things, how important the framing is, and to give the weight of the conversation to the issue or the part of the conversation that's most important. So with all of that said, you can, I haven't brought it up. You're not going to echo, Chewy. You can still jump in before I play if you want.
No, roll the clip.
Okay. So this is the first one, and this is Cornel West talking about, or being asked about, that some of these pro-Palestinian protesters seem to be supporting the views of Hamas. That's all we need.
But if you have people, and we've seen pictures of them inside and outside campus, who appear to be supporting Hamas rhetoric, who are wearing maybe insignia relating to Hamas or Hezbollah or whatever, if you're brazenly supporting organizations, groups of people that are deemed to be...
See straight away the framing. He's gone from appears to be supporting, and then he's gone to brazenly supporting. So straight away the framing has changed to basically saying any of those pro-Palestinian protesters on university are now brazenly supporting Hamas. So that's the framing I'm talking about. So when Cenk loses his fucking mind, and it's great to watch, over the framing and over what's being said, there's a really good example. Supposedly, brazenly, just like that, he's changed the framing and he's given the weight to the other side of the conversation without saying it.
Terrorists by large swathes of the world, does that cross the line?
This is utter nonsense, Piers. Can I just answer the question?
Okay, check. Yeah.
You got genocide taking place. You got IDF terrorism taking place. You can't say a mumbling word about 12 universities that have been leveled to the ground. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of professors have been killed. Students have been killed. You're a journalist.
Yes.
Have you talked about the 112 journalists who have been killed, brother?
Yes, I have done.
You just said lies.
Well, hang on. Well, Cornel, I actually. Cornel, hang on. Cornel.
Cornel. You're unfair.
Cornel.
Then you just start lying. You start lying, man. It's ridiculous.
Cornel,
man.
I'm not lying about anything.
No,
you are. I agree with Cornel West completely. You're totally, utterly lying through your framing. The framing of this is a total, complete lie.
Look, I can't hear you both speak at the same time. Cornel, just to be clear, I have posted. Sorry, hang on.
Please.
Hang on. I have posted about the journalists who've died in Gaza, right? I have posted about this. I have highlighted the deaths of those journalists, right?
Put it in the framework.
Well, I'm going to. I was going to come to you about the framework.
No, you're not.
All the vandalism about one hall, and you hardly can say a mumbling word about universities, libraries gone completely, schoolrooms gone completely. You see how truncated and narrow your framework is? You're just lying, man. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Okay. When you say lying, what you're trying to imply that I don't care about the other stuff you've just mentioned.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's not a lie.
That's definitely right.
Well, okay.
Not have as an Israeli life. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I'll take this down, sure. We've got like 3 or 4 little clips like that to play, but you can start have at it, sir.
I love the fact that they just went off on him. Like I hate the fact that there's 5 little boxes there with people that could all kick off at the same time. It's this thing that often happens when you try to do this talking head sort of thing. There is no comparison. There is no comparison with the university protests in the States. It's its own almost separate thing. The thing that links them is why they're protesting. But yes, you can't compare a student takeover in a US university with what is happening to universities in Gaza. They're systematically gone. The teaching staff killed. The research, the history, all gone. Libraries gone. Hospitals gone. Doctors gone. It is the wiping out. There's almost a word for it. It's a clearing. It'll take generations to build that back. Generations that the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip will not have.
All right, I'm going to play some more.
And that should be the driving thing for all of these things. It's the overwhelming disgust of what is happening over there. Don't frame it with some other thing. That's its own thing.
He says at the end, and I just put up that tweet from J Max, said this is about 30 minutes into the show. It's actually 20 minutes into the show, but he just went on and on and on and on and on and on. And then they brought these two. It's almost like they were lighting the fires under themselves before they got to him. And then when they finally got to him, they just explode. He says at the end that the reason they were invited on was to debate about Jewish students at American universities not getting access to the libraries in the classrooms. And I guess a part of what both Cenk and Cornel do is go, fuck that debate. Let's talk about important things. So let me play you another clip. This is just playing straight on from the next part. It's only 60 seconds. This conversation continues.
Okay, let me bring in Cenk. Let me bring in Cenk here. Let me bring in Cenk. Just to be clear, I haven't lied about anything.
Just to be clear, Cornel West was just calling him a racist, and Piers Morgan just moves on.
Right? I haven't talked about what's happened in Gaza yet because we haven't come to that part of the debate. But Cenk, I don't believe you've always seemed to me to be one of the more rational voices in this debate, prepared to accept what Hamas did was horrendous and so on. I don't believe that you think it's right that Jewish students should be intimidated and harassed on a
You
campus.
come right back to the thing again.
Can I just answer this for
We are
God's
debating
sake?
the
And what Cornel is worried about is this is the talking point. And after that whole diatribe, he comes straight back to the talking point.
Brother.
Okay?
Come on, brother.
Check.
Come on, man.
I don't
Okay.
think it's right.
All right.
They should be
So
subjected
I've
to intimidation.
Okay, Piers.
Nobody
can I
thinks
finally
it's right.
answer?
Nobody thinks that's right. It's not
Cornel,
right.
let
that
Cenk speak and I'll come back to you.
Girl has a hall named after her because she and 15,000 other children have been killed by the IDF terrorists that you don't even call terrorists, but you can call the students terrorists. That's not a double standards, man. That's just outright mendacity, hiding criminality on your show, and you're supposed to be uncensored, concerned about the truth.
Well, you just said I called them terrorists. I haven't called them terrorists. That, ironically, is a lie. Cenk, I want to...
All right, let me take this down for you, Chewy. So that, ironically, is a lie. But again, it's the framing of it. It's like he's got these guys to debate, about the Jewish students at Columbia. That's what the debate was supposed to be about. And these guys are just saying the framing has... You're saying like the Jewish students he's not talking about the Jewish students at Columbia who are a part of the protesters. He's talking about the Jewish students at the university who were not able to move around the campus as freely as they usually were. What a disingenuous bullshit argument. I mean, what an unimportant point to be debating. So what did he expect to happen? Anyway, Chewy, yours.
Here we are 6 months after it, and they're still bringing up, you've got to condemn Hamas. We're fucking past that. Has there been a single person that stood up and said, the events of October 7th completely justified?
Yeah.
Completely justified and reasonable. Not a single fucking person apart from Hamas would say that. It doesn't add anything to the discussion. It doesn't, Piers is an idiot for this. Why you would get 4 other people on to discuss something as nuanced as this and let it be as rambling and open, and it's just, I'm going to put a shit fight on the TV.
Yeah.
And I think Cornel going absolutely off on it is perfect. Become ungovernable. And the disrespect that he's directing towards it, I think it's exactly deserved.
Yeah.
There are ways to have these discussions. And I think if it was a one-on-one or even have Piers as a moderator and have one person on one side and one person on the other, there's probably more use that comes out of that. But again, it's a common failing with these sort of interview formats. As if you get one person on one side and one person on the other, you risk giving those things equal footing.
Yeah.
That just isn't there. I think, if you're going to frame a question like, do you think it's fair that Jewish students feel intimidated? Compared to what? People watching their friends and family get systematically bombed into the sea are not allowed to express their thoughts on that. It's ridiculous. Just
to cut in for a second, because this is a part of the conversation, I'm going to bring this up and I'll read it, then I'll go back to another clip. This is 30 minutes ago. This is on theguardian.com. Israeli order to evacuate Rafah is a dangerous escalation that will have consequences. A senior Hamas official has said that the Israeli order for civilians to evacuate Rafah is a dangerous escalation that will have consequences. Now, that's a part of this conversation that's going to continue on. Everyone in the world is saying they can't go in. And I did read this before we came on. Netanyahu basically said they're going in no matter what. We'll get back to this conversation. That's not quite breaking news, but certainly that's article just from 30 minutes ago.
Before you kick this off, I just want to say about Rafah. Okay, Rafah is basically a refugee camp at this point. Everybody's in tents. There's 16,000 children, I think, in that area. And I think this is a point where the international community have kind of got together and gone, come on, Israel, this is enough.
Yeah, they're giving them a line, which is unusual. They've actually drawn the line. Yeah,
and Israel has said, fuck your line, we're going anyway. And this has also got to a point where a couple of other things have happened in Israel. There was a protest over the weekend of over 100,000 Israelis protesting against Netanyahu because the news came out that he turned down a hostage exchange a couple of days after October 7th. And all Hamas asked was, don't send military forces into the Gaza Strip.
All right. Let's keep
and
going.
Israel said no.
Yeah, we'll keep going with this conversation now. This last part of this first part of the and then I've got 2 other short clips, and then I'm going to show you how stupid the show is and how Piers Morgan really makes a show to pitch to the lowest common denominator. I have evidence of that.
To bring you in, you're getting very angry about this too. Just to be clear, I am expressing an opinion that what has happened at Columbia has
a shitty opinion,
crossed a line. And that if I'm a Jewish student there, I think it's completely outrageous. I'm being intimidated and harassed for the actions of Israel's government thousands of miles away. That doesn't mean I don't have very strong views about what's happening in Gaza, because you know that I do. So where is my lie in all this?
Yeah, Piers, I've just listened to you for 20 minutes frame the issue in a purely 100% Israeli propaganda way. So if you say, hey, listen, Jewish students shouldn't be harassed or attacked, of course I agree. I've got
you
Jewish
agree with
family.
Me? So why have I lied?
Yeah, no. Stop interrupting. But what you don't talk about is you say from the river to the sea is an unacceptable change. Did you mention to the audience in these last 20 minutes that Benjamin Netanyahu actually said it recently? Not only
he says it a lot, and often Netanyahu doesn't say from the river to the sea. He says from the Jordan west, the Jordan being the river and west being the sea.
That he's actually doing it. He's in the middle of wiping out the Palestinians from the river to the sea. That is the grotesque violence. He has slaughtered 25,000 women and children. They were all innocent. So when Hamas kills 860 innocent Israeli civilians, I call them out and I say that is terrible. But when Israel slaughters 25,000 women and children, we're saying, oh, I don't like a pro-Palestinian chant. A chant? That's what we're concerned about. And now you turn to the violence that has happened on college campuses. There is one case of overwhelming violence, and that happened last night at UCLA. And it was pro-Israeli protesters that violently attacked the peace protesters that didn't do anything. They attacked an old lady and said, oh, yeah, good luck trying to defend yourself, old lady. These are vicious, vigilante thugs, and they have done more violence than all of the peace protesters in the country combined. Where are the arrests? Where's the outrage? Where's the indignation? You pretend that you care about protecting students, but you only care about protecting one side, whereas the other side is assaulted.
No, I don't actually. Because
debased and humiliated.
Okay, let me respond.
And all you want to do is cancel their speech. You're part of cancel culture, and admit it right now.
Can I
You're
respond?
talking about protesting people.
Can I respond?
Americans.
Can I respond?
Americans.
By the way,
okay, this is not the United States of Israel.
Fine.
America.
All right, you
Americans
made your point.
To protest a foreign government.
Okay, let me respond. Just to be clear.
You've lost the right wing.
Just
you've
to
lost
be clear.
The left wing. You've lost America. America's not going to stand here and let Israel
you can keep
dictate
shouting, or we can have a debate.
Who's allowed to speak and who's going to be arrested.
All right, you can keep.
So I wonder if one of the things is, Chewy, and that's the end of that part of the clip. I've got a couple other shorties to play, much shorter than that. I wonder if one of the things is actually, what's the fucking debate? What are we saying? The debate is a small number of students at Columbia University are finding it more difficult to get to their library, one side. Gaza children, Palestinian children being pulled out of bombed buildings, the other side. Is that the actual debate we're having? It doesn't seem like
there's no equivalent. Like, is there an argument that Muslim students felt pressured or unsafe in universities following 9/11? You know, they're trying to draw a line between those two things, and it doesn't exist. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. I saw Seymour's comments today from protesters crashing one of his events. That was just like, oh, these people, they're not doing their cause any good, and then calling them turkeys. And it's just like, do you not understand the emotion that's involved in this? Do you look at those figures of what's happened in Gaza since October, and you're just happy to carry on with? Does it not strike you at just a human, empathetic level that it is disgusting, it is an atrocity. And for Americans especially to look at the links that the US has with Israel and go, yeah, this is okay. I'm fine with what's being done. You know, at what point do you go, it's so bad, it's so egregious, it's so disgusting, it's so over the top that I need to do more than write a letter to my congressman. This is something that gets me out of the street. And one of the comparisons I saw from some of the universities is the other protests that they've done in the past: civil rights, Vietnam, the Gulf War, all of these sort of things. And you look back at every one of those protests and go, yeah, you were right. And you had the National Guard set on you, and you had people making the same arguments against student protesters then as they are now.
There was a very good episode that I watched before we came on tonight of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and he goes through a bit of that. And he, I think it might have been Brown University, one of the universities where someone in the 90s was taken away in handcuffs from a library, and he then became the head of the NAACP, and then they asked him to come back and deliver the kind of the speech that they give in front of the graduating class, and the point that Oliver made, I think maybe it was someone else made that they played, was there's not really any examples of the hard government crackdown that ages well. Like it's the students that have always ended up being on the right side of history. It doesn't end up that they go, oh yeah, when they called the police in that time, they were on the right side of history was the university. It's always the students. And if they don't see that now, they're never gonna. So let's play another clip. I've got 2 60-second clips to go, and then I'll show you what a moron he really is and what he's pitching to. This is just another bit of a debate with Professor West about, Jewish students being harassed as Piers Morgan's highest concern.
But given that there has been clear intimidation and harassment of Jewish students, it's been broadcast, we've seen the videos of it, you cannot be happy as a professor there that Jewish students are being harassed and intimidated because people are critical of what an Israel government's doing thousands of miles away. That is my point.
Of course. That goes without saying. I try to be a decent person in my life.
So you agree with me? After that diatribe, you agree with me?
All you want to talk about is protection of Jews.
That's not all I want to talk about, Cornel. But that is actually what this debate is about.
Organizations that are banded back in October. Did you say a word about that? When you got massive children at universities and hospitals completely leveled, and you have something on your Twitter rather than make that part of the framing of the issue, then in fact you become an extension of propaganda. And that's why I call you a racist, because it means then that a Palestinian
how dare you? Honestly, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but how dare you?
You wouldn't frame it in that way, my brother. You would not frame it in that way.
I'm sorry, but you how dare you call me a racist? What you don't know is, before I did this debate, I did a long interview with one of the IDF spokesmen in which I went after him about their planned invasion of Rafah because I think it would be a catastrophic mistake. So don't call me a racist. And don't assume don't assume.
You think Biden believes that Palestinian life has the same value as Israeli life?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely not.
Yes, I do.
Fiber in his bone when it comes to Palestinian predicament.
I absolutely believe
that's an answer to me?
I believe Palestinian lives matter just as much as any other lives. And I've always said that. Always.
It's not manifesting your framing, brother. It's not manifesting your framing. It's an abstract.
Don't throw around the word racist without any evidence to support the fact that I'm a racist.
I hear a lot of evidence, and I've been hearing the evidence, and I throw it around. It's not throwing around. It's a reality.
Me.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you say to Dr. Cornel West, don't use words lightly. And he goes, I don't. I use them based on the evidence. It kind of shoots your argument down. I've got one more clip, True, but do you want to add anything before we get to the last clip? The last clip is another 60-seconder.
Yeah, I just saw a comment in the chat, and I think this kind of ties into the whole thing. So it's cool for the average secular Jews to be intimidated in the US or here in New Zealand. Yes, no, that's not what anybody is saying here.
And that's not the framing, as we've been saying.
That's not the framing. Like, you could spin that particular thing to say, well, if Jewish people are uncomfortable with people protesting in support of Gaza or against what is happening over there, then it shouldn't happen. Like, being uncomfortable, like, I'm sure there are many Jews in the US, in these universities, that are very conflicted about this. You see in a lot of protests, there are Jews going, "Not in my name," are seeing the clear parallels between what's happening now and what has happened to Jews in the past.
Yeah.
But that weaponizing of, this is making me uncomfortable, I don't like that feeling, it's yucky in my tummy, so I want these people to shut the fuck up and go away.
Yeah.
That's not the way, fam. That's not how that works. If people are being harassed and attacked for being Jewish, sure, that's too far. I have seen, what was it? There was a counter protest at one point where police stood back last week and let pro-Israeli protesters attack
fireworks and
this
stuff,
occupation camp with bats and fireworks and that sort of thing. This is not a one-sided debate. People feel very, very passionate about being of a Zionist position or being Israeli, and there are people that are of a Jewish faith or secular Jews or being Israeli that are disgusted by what's being done in their name. This is not a black and white thing. I think the only black and white thing in this is that what has happened in Gaza is just beyond the pale.
So that's got to be the foundation. When we talk about the framing, the foundation of this conversation has to start with October 7th. It has to then have the foundation later on top of that, 35,000 dead Palestinians, and then the rest of the conversations can happen. Right? Hamas's responsibility for what they did in Israel, war crime. Israel's response to Palestinian civilians for what Hamas did. That's where the conversation always has to start. Those has to be the foundations of these conversations. And the rest of it, university students not being able to get to the library don't really matter. And I really like this comment from Rajan, because when Rajan sends this comment in, it makes me think that Cornel West, and I've heard a lot of Cornel West speaking, he's very chill and laid back. Goes, my brother, he calls everyone his brother and his sister. And so he's a canary in a coal mine. And what Rajan said was, if you piss Cornel West off this much, you've crossed a line. That's not bad. He can be the canary in my coal mine. All right, we'll go to this last clip. This last clip is about 60 seconds, and it just wraps up this part of the conversation. You should go and watch this. It's 45 minutes, but here's just another 60 seconds for you.
Piers, do you get that we are vomiting your propaganda? We can't stand it anymore. Yeah. It isn't just about you. It's all of media, all of the politicians with their nonstop propaganda that the people in favor of peace, the people who want to protect innocent lives, are somehow pro-terrorists, are the bad guys, are the anti-Semites, are the racists, etc. We're sick of the overwhelming propaganda.
Yeah, I'm pretty sick of being called a racist by you guys. So we've all got a cross to bear. Let me bring over it.
The IDF were terrorists. Are the IDF a terrorist organization killing innocent children? Yes or no?
I do not believe they're a terrorist organization. No.
Oh, come on! Of course they're terrorists.
They're at war. There's a big difference between being at war and being a terrorist.
No, you may think they are, Cornel, and you may think they are, Cenk. You've asked me a question. I do not think they are. Okay?
Based on what?
Do I think the IDF? Do I think the IDF has very serious questions to answer about the way they are executing?
About all that terrorism, all that stuff.
In this war? Absolutely. Do we have international criminal courts? Do we have criminal courts and laws and rules to hold them to account?
For all those acts of terror and war crimes, those things.
Absolutely. And do I want them to be held to account? Damn right I do, yeah. And do I think they should be invading Rafah? No, I do not.
It don't mean that much to you, man. Come on.
Oh, it does mean as much to me. Let me bring in Javier again.
No, they don't mean that much.
Javier,
so there you go. We'll leave that one there. And yeah. This idea, and it's an interesting framing again, that for these politicians, and you would have heard Cornel West there, even though the mic was a bit inny and outy, saying that that's the same position of Joe Biden. Biden doesn't care about Palestinian lives as much about Jewish lives or Israeli lives. And I think that's something that we're going to look at through this year and see if that impacts him at the end of the year election. But I've got one more clip, Chew, to play you. It's only like 40 or 50 seconds, but that's the end of the clips I'm playing with Cornel West and Cenk. Anything from you?
Just on your comment there, of like whether Biden weighs up a Palestinian life the same as he does an Israeli life. I think when politics comes in at this level, I don't think the weight of individual lives come in at all. You know, it's like that old quote of like a death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. We're getting into statistics territory here, right? And it's just geopolitics. I do not understand why the US is just so ride or die on Israel. You know, Israel has shown consistently through their entire existence that Israel will do what they see as best for them. Don't give a fuck what our allies think. Don't give a fuck what our enemies think. You know, they fully attacked a US flagged ship in the opening hours of one of their wars in the 60s. They don't have a red line for this sort of stuff. And throughout this, it's been just writ large that America's gone, well, we're not happy with how this is going, and we could cut off funding and we could cut off military aid. We're not going to, so don't worry, Israel. But if you could just chill out a bit and stop being an utter psycho, that'd be great. And Israel's going, nah, I'm going to stab up and bomb this playground. Like, it's just there's it's kind of like they're pulling the chain, but the chain's not attached to the dog that you're trying to call back. I'm doing everything I can.
All right, I'm going to play you this last clip, and I want you to check out. This is a completely different conversation. This might have happened today, but because I've been watching Piers Morgan over the last couple of days to get these clips, he's now popping up in my fucking feed. And this was a debate around the change. This is the important things in life, Chewy, when you've got this kind of platform and money behind you. The change to the LGBT flag. That's what this whole 5-panel debate is about. And the guy on the far right, sorry, as you look at it, far left, I'll just circle him, this gentleman here, right? Piers Morgan is about to say he's making a good point. I want you to hear what his good point is and tell me that there is an ounce of intellect, intelligence, cleverness, whatever about this conversation. We're not even going to get into the conversation about what they're talking about, but I just wanted to play this for you and just to go to show you how dumbed down, lowest common denominator, moronic conversations these are.
Do that. I think, like, if you're an American, you're all encompassed under the American flag. We're all Americans, whether you're gay, straight, blind, you can see.
I had to recue that because it's the wrong part. Let's go again. No one will see this in the edit. Okay, here we'll go from here. Here we go.
We get it. Like, I don't understand why we need to keep changing it. But what I do understand
why
is that
do they
it doesn't
keep
matter.
changing it?
But it's fine. You know, that's the point with the flag. Like, we can change it. We're not stuck in our ways like straight people. We're not going to get upset by the England flag being redesigned.
This is the other thing that happens with these kinds of panels. This is Blair White, second from the left. But should we change it? Should we change it? This is this ultimate victim mentality. You know how the right always talks about snowflakes? The right are actually the snowflakes. Blair White's a conservative commentator, a trans woman, and she's like, but should we change? It's this idea about having things forced down your throat. If they want to change the rainbow flag, some people will use a new flag, some people will use the old flag. There's no fucking should. It's, do you want to change it? Do you want to use it? Yes or no? But she makes a real big deal about should, but should we change it? It's not the conversation at all. And it's this, we hear this a lot. The right saying, those snowflake liberals, and they're all the ones that are like, don't change my things, don't do this, don't do that. Anyway, the gentleman on the far left is, ironically, from the far right, who's on the far left, is about to make his very good point.
Well, it can if it wants to. It's changed a lot over the years, and people continue to. Say again, Blair?
There shouldn't even be a flag.
It, but should we?
Well,
sometimes.
But why not?
Okay,
I mean, we didn't invent the rainbow. God invented the rainbow. We use that as a symbol to let. We use that as a symbol to let people know that.
Well, actually, you raise a good point there.
We don't need to. We don't need to do that.
All right, and that's all I'm playing you. You raised a good point there, Officer David. Would you like me to repeat you what his point was, Chewie? This was his point. There shouldn't even be a flag. There shouldn't be a flag. If you were, there shouldn't be a flag. There should be no flag. Quote verbatim what he said. Piers Morgan, oh, you raise a good point. Let's go on with this debate. That's the level of idiocy you're dealing with on his show, pitching to the lowest common denominator to clickbait and get the conversations going.
Five talking heads in a row in a box is an absolute fucking shit show. Yeah. That guy's argument that there shouldn't be a flag because there's a US flag is idiocy at its absolute highest degree. So there shouldn't be any state flags. There shouldn't be any football team flags. It's all encompassed under the United States flag. Just nonsense. I think you're right. You said at the start of the segment that it is just Piers rage farming.
Yeah.
Because there's no cogent debate.
Because
there's
that
chance
point
for anybody to expand on their points.
Because Piers Morgan knows if he gets the uber conservative going, there should be no flag, people are going to go, what? We can have a flag? You know, that's why it's a very good point. It's a very good point for that dude to say there shouldn't even be a flag. There shouldn't be a flag. If you were, there shouldn't be a flag. There should not be a flag. That's the good point again, verbatim. Piers knows. Oh, click. There's a clip. I can get that out, and that will rage bait people, and that will get tons of clicks. That's what it's about, and that's why it's a moronic level of conversations.
But that's what that passes for debate over there. You see that in their elections on other shows and on Fox and CNN. They all do it. Let's get like 6 people, put talking heads in the box, and hope to get some analysis out of that. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's not something that's just limited to Piers Morgan either. It's just we've chosen to highlight him in particular in this case. Like, you see the same sort of thing in a more serious news platform where they seem to think more voices all talking at once is better. And how is an uninformed voter or someone that's curious on forming an opinion on this issue, like, and I can't imagine someone stumbling into that one and go, I didn't have a position on the LGBTQI flag. I wonder what these guys have to say is going to get anything of value out of it. So then that's not its aim. Its aim is clicks. Its aim is rage bait. Its aim is traffic, and rage gets great engagement. That's fantastic. And if that's what the news media is chasing, if that's their metric, how much engagement did we get in the chat? How many eyeballs did we get on that story that transmitted through to our advertisers?
Yeah.
How can we farm this out to other talking heads? Farm this out as a culture war issue, and holy shit, look at our numbers go up. It's not helpful to debate. It's not helpful to discourse. It's not helpful to people's decision-making progress. And as much of a fluff issue as should there be more colors on that flag is, that is the template that they'll use going into something like who's better, Trump or Biden. He's 16 talking heads in a 20-minute show. Good luck with the vote.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Chewie, let's get to a couple of chats here. Rimmer, smartest guy in the debate club. I heard he was the worst example of a rational person out there from Gold. Thank you for that, Gold.
You can't have rational without rat.
Mr. Arvid wants to know if you denounce David Seymour. Do you denounce David Seymour? Lurchify says it's all about the gas fields off Gaza being developed by Israel and the US. Shady. And Gareth says, this is interesting. Gareth says, Pat, you speaking with people with opposing views like Chantal is magic. The James Hake interview is one of your best pieces of content, in my honest opinion. I agree that I like doing it. Like, I like it. I like doing it. I think it's, I find it enjoyable. I think it's good broadcasting as well.
It's interesting that both of those examples, we had quite a bit of debate internally about it, and we had people come at us, especially for the Chantal Baker one.
Not so much the James Hake one. Yeah, not so much the James Hake one.
But yeah, to bear in mind, James Hake is literally a neo-Nazi with a happy, accessible podcasting face.
But he doesn't. But New Zealanders don't know him, so it didn't give the community the kind of heads up before it came on. The point I made right at the start of this conversation about 40 minutes ago is that that's what it can turn into. Like what we just heard was an extreme version of it. Look, and I don't think that was useless, because I loved what Dr. West was saying. Like I enjoyed it. And Cenk, there can be a lot of criticisms over Cenk Uygur at the moment and what he's doing with TYT and where it's come from in 2015 to what it is today. And I hear it as well. But I agree with his messaging and what he was saying in that conversation. So yeah, I guess I think about that sort of thing, the having the opposing views on. It's not that I won't have the opposing views on, but it'll be what will it be for the audience? What will it be for, let's say, the cause? And then we'll decide. Because
I don't think there's necessarily any harm in an interviewer having a position on something either. And it just seems to be with what Piers was doing there. It was trying to be this all things to everyone middleman of like, oh, of course I don't like what's happening in Gaza, but I also don't agree with what Hamas did. And Jewish, and it's like, yeah, but have a position. Those things are not the same. Like, we have a very clear position. We would still have a discussion with someone that has an alternative position because we've got questions. There's no point in just being a fluffy interviewer sometimes.
And we get that a lot. Like if you look in our YouTube chats, I was just going to go have a look at a few of them, not the chats like this, but the comments talking about our bias and, journalistically biased. And I'm like, okay, A, we're not journalists, and B, yes, we're biased. Your next point would be what? I normally follow that up with, if I choose to engage, you identify one political commentator on the internet that's not biased. They never answer that question, Chewy. Because when someone calls you biased as a derogatory term, what they're saying is, I don't agree with you. That's what they're saying. Because if you were biased the other way, then they'd think you were speaking the truth. So it's just
a classic example for me is Jack Tame, right? Absolutely love him tearing strips off politicians that I don't agree with. Really, really didn't like him showing Chippy up pre-election or going hard after Chloe. And that's the thing. He puts everybody's feet to the fire. Like people saying, well, why don't we have these voices on? We reach out.
Yeah.
Like what me and Pat do here is basically having a discussion. One of the things about Pat's interview with Chantal Baker and Hake and that sort of thing is Pat is an excellent interviewer.
Oh.
Well, you are. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before, is that I had serious reservations about the Hake conversation, and you said watch it and judge before we put it to air, and we put it to air because I was like, yeah, okay, this shows up his views for what they are. I don't think this is platforming someone. Like you can put someone on a platform and uncritically going, well, here's what he says about his point of view. Also, you can hold someone up and saying, this is how stupid a racist is. Look at how dumb he is. Those are different things. And that's certainly what happened with Chantal Baker is,
that interview has been used in 2 publications and a court case. Just so you know. Let me say,
I mean, we would love it if we got David Seymour on the show.
We've had him. Do you know what? He hasn't come back on since I told him why people consider him to be a racist. Didn't even tell him he was a racist. I just explained to him why people consider him to be racist. Since then, he won't come near us. We've asked, what's his deputy's name? Whatever her name is. I can't even remember. Sorry, I'm doing 10 things at once. We've asked Luxon, all these people. None of them ever come on. Yep. So here's something else. This is just a little preview, actually, Chewy. I'm going to put the thing up so you might echo in yourself. There's an interesting documentary at the moment on TVNZ Plus. I haven't seen it yet, but it goes into the 2004 Shore and Seabed Act. The director of that is Whatanui Flavel. He's coming on Wednesday. So homework for everybody is, if you've got time, TVNZ Plus, it's called Hikoi, Speaking the Truth, I think it's what it's called. There it is there. Whatanui is coming on Wednesday night to have a chat with us about the documentary. So if you want to be in a space where you want to engage in the conversation we have on Wednesday night, go check out the Foreshore and Seabed documentary before then on TVNZ Plus. It's free for everyone to see. So I just interview. There's a little bit more of an interview.
The deputy was Vanderdroid.
Vanderdroid, right. Brooke. Babbling Brooke. Cool. Yeah, and look, they won't come on. They will at some stage. Look, and this is another thing that we're grateful to you guys for. You know, the bigger we get, the more eyes that are on us, the more ears that hear us, the more pressure's on them to come on. I watch Podcast of a CEO, Diary of a CEO, that young British CEO, his name's just jumping out of my head right now because I don't do names well. And he actively says at the end of it, you know, like, share, and subscribe. The bigger we get, the better guests we get. He just puts it out there. Diary of a CEO is what it's called. And it's true. If by the next election, you know, a little tagline that I've had in the back of my head, whilst it might seem unrealistic, is bigger than Hosking, you know, if we had the reach, then they will come, whether they want to or not, because they'll have to. Simple as that. All right, we're done for the night. Sorry.
I'm double.
Yep, gotcha.
I was just going to type out a whole big thing to a comment in there. I just want to clarify a point where I said no one supports Hamas. What I meant by that was that whole thing that people went through of going on talk shows or interviews and that sort of thing, talking about what was happening in Gaza, and then immediately getting called out to say, well, do you condemn what Hamas did? Or do you support what Hamas did? Look, I'm talking about none of those people in interviews that I saw will come out and say, yes, I 100% support what Hamas did. I was not talking about the general public, the entire population of Gaza. I don't have those numbers. I can only talk about what I saw there. I also saw you mentioning some sort of poll where 70% of Gazans supported it. How many of those 70% are left? And what was the methodology of that survey?
How the hell do you do a survey in Gaza? Think about it. They making phone calls on all their landlines at the moment, are they? That's how they're doing. So what you're saying is 70%, and that was made up of 10 people in Gaza, of which one was one of the refugees and the other 9 were IDF soldiers, because they're all in Gaza at the moment. Is that how it was made?
So I mean, these are the sort of things that when those things are thrown around about, oh, well, there was a survey. These are the things that you need to look at. And this is the same for any survey. Like, the methodology is who's putting it out there is important, that sort of thing. You know, this in a week where Israel has thrown out Al Jazeera and shut down their operation, you know, the press and the news that
famous for their free speech area. Israel, famous for their free speech. They're very aware that they are very, very clued up on their free speech. They are in Israel.
Yeah. And I think any news out of that area at the moment, again, everybody's got their angle, everybody's got their side, everybody's got their bias. And I think you don't have free and fair access to the press on either side of that argument. And the quality of the information that we're getting out of that area is unreliable. Because you have the IDF's propaganda machine, you have Hamas's propaganda machine, as you've got the fact that
too harsh.
You've got the fact that independent journalists or journalists in Gaza on the ground have been targeted. So then, what news is not getting out?